It's really, I think my message will be titled, Your Full Potential. What is our potential today as individuals? What is our potentials? And when Brother Donnie said the Lord really impressed him start teaching on things that will bring people, in other words, up to par. That's the same thing that I'm going to speak a little bit about this morning. What is our potential? And is it in us to do better? Do we have a greater potential than we are walking in, acting in? And I'll tell you the reason why I'm preaching this. Here Tuesday night we were praying, and the Lord spoke the strangest thing, and it was almost comical. He said, run on all cylinders. Run on all cylinders. Let me make sure I've got it written down right. Yeah, run on all cylinders. Run on all cylinders. And I began to think about that. All cylinders. And I thought of cars. There's 4 cylinders, 6 cylinders, and 8 cylinders. And the 4-cylinder has some power. But the 6-cylinder has more power. But then the 8-cylinder has more power. But the Lord said, run on all cylinders. And I began to think, Lord, that being so, Paul spoke about a race. He said, I am in a race. Now, they had trained to run in that race. And they had been trained to overcome obstacles, to endure some hardnesses, to be able to withstand some things. But you don't stop. You don't stop. But Paul got a vision of his reward one day that he was going to have. But he said it's not just for me, but it's for you also. But he got a glimpse. I read where the winner of these races would receive a wreath like a garland, and they would put that on their head like a crown. But Paul said, I saw what mine is going to look like, but been trained not to let anything or anybody hinder. But here Paul was asking the question. He said, you did run well. Who has hindered you from being at full potential? What is hindering us from being in full potential of our ability? The Lord said, I want you to run on all cylinders. Now, you men will know more of what that means than I do. But have you ever had a car? I had one time. And it would do just fine. I would go see Mom and Dad. And that car would do just fine on the interstate. It would do just fine most of the way. But there was a hill that I had to go up to get Mom and Dad's house. And I got to noticing, when I would get to that hill, that car would almost choke out. It would almost quit on me going up the hill, and I thought, what in the world is going on? Something was wrong in the motor. Something was wrong in the engine. You see, before the Lord said, I want you to run on all cylinders, He had just spoken a word to me, and that word was one, engine. The engine in a car is more important than how that car looks. Have you ever had a good-looking car, but it wouldn't crank? You had a good-looking car, but you couldn't get over 30 miles an hour in it. So something was wrong with the engine. When the Lord said, I want you to run on all cylinders. Fellas, help me. What does it mean, Brother Donnie, for a car if it's 4 cylinders?
It means all the cylinders be hitting on the blower, not bowed out.
Everything hitting, nothing missing.
Firing like totally firing.
Everything firing. Michael, tell me about a 6-cylinder.
2 more plus 4. Same thing.
Same thing, only just more horsepower, I guess.
Somewhat, yeah.
But then the 8-cylinder. What would you say today is your capacity? Are you 4 cylinders, 6 cylinders, or 8 cylinders?
Good question.
Now, if you've got an 8-cylinder engine, but you go about 2 miles down the road and that thing starts chuggity-chug, you know something is wrong. Most of the time before we set out to go on a lengthy journey in our car, like Michigan or something like that, Raymond will take that car and he says, I'm going to have it serviced. I'm going to make sure everything is up to par. Because you don't want to get on the interstate and it goes chuggity-chug. And you feel it start slowing down and you're praying in every language you know to pray in. But that thing stops anyhow. There's something wrong. I feel like what the Lord is telling us, whatever our potential is, start moving in that potential. Now, we've got people that have just repented. Live a good, repented life. I mean, live as repented as you know how to live. But then we've got some that maybe has went as far as sanctification. That second definite work. You haven't yet received the infilling of the Holy Ghost, but you live a good, clean life called sanctification. I would call that the 6-cylinder. A little bit more power. Live as consecrated. You know, this week, I went on a few days, I think 4 days, consecration before God. And I felt good about it. I felt really good about it. But you know what? If we were beginning to pick out little things in our life and began to deal with that, because eventually that thing that you allow is going to cause you to chuggity-chug at some point. It's going to begin to limit your ability to overcome. Somebody help me preach. Now, Brother Donnie said something about that thing would start missing. So let's talk a little bit, regardless if you're the 4-engine or the 4-cylinder, 6-cylinder, or 8-cylinder, where are we missing it? And it will cause you to lose power. And when a motor loses power, it's very frustrating. If you're going to talk nasty, you'll talk nasty. How many of you have ever said a nasty word because your car got to chuggity-chugging and almost quit on you? What was wrong? It was losing power. The church world, for the most part, has lost too much power. It's because we've been missing it too much of certain things.